Good afternoon, everybody. This is your host, Lauren Johnson. That's Lrtaun. And this is episode 4 of Hidden Killers. Today, we'll be kind of speedrunning the court trials before Stevenson died. But I was talking to my husband the other day, and I realized that I really have no idea how court works. So please, take anything I say here with a grain of salt. Most of it won't make much sense, which is why I'll mainly be covering the pieces of evidence presented during the trials. This mostly consists of fake alibis, which I'll be debunking the same way the courts did, security camera feeds that I'll be forced to just describe, as opposed to actually showing them, and physical items taken from the bodies of the victims. Most of this might be in the next episode, though, because I only have a limited amount of time here. The start of the court proceedings started with the murder of a man named Sean Sutton. Not the director, though. He actually worked as a car salesman, and his wife was a lawyer. She was the first to point fingers at Stevenson for the murder, her having been seen with him the previous day. She had also said that looking through past victims of apparently the same killer, Stevenson seemed to align with most of the factors. She went to the college that most of her victims attended, her schedule usually lined up, and she didn't seem to have any solid alibis aside from her best friend, who we'll be bringing on once again for this episode. After his body had eventually turned up somewhere or other, Samantha, his wife, had gone nearly hysterical, trying to figure out what exactly had happened and how to get some sort of justice for him. She had dug through tons of records regarding this particular killer, and she had gone through everything he had done for the past week before he went missing, until she found one common thread: Kate Stevenson. What can also help you to find a common thread if anything happens is today's sponsor, HSS, a home security company designed specifically with your safety in mind. It alerts you to any suspicious activity or movement within your premise and keeps your house securely locked no matter what lengths people may be going through to get inside. Know that HSS is on your side, and be sure to take a look into them as soon as possible, considering there's a special deal going on for 20% off on all tiers. Now, on to the interview. Thank you for joining us again, Brooke. I know it must be at least mildly annoying to get called on here more than once.
It's really not that bad. Honestly, you could have me on 3 times if you wanted.
I make no promises that I won't. We've been kind of low on guests lately. I think it's just because of how little people are aware of this thing.
Maybe. I'm not sure. I really don't like to keep up with the whole news or internet thing. I prefer to live my life offline, in my true environment.
Huh, really? Well, it hasn't been talked about as much as I think, especially with how publicly available the court proceedings are. They're super easy to access, but I did want your input on it all because you were there for them and you actively participated in them.
Yeah, that makes sense. I remember more of it than I think I do. Honestly, not much of the logistics, but
Can you tell me what you do remember?
I remember that I had decided to testify against her because I got the feeling the person accusing her was right. As much as I adore Stevenson, she really, well, it was just kind of obvious. And I like to stick to my morals, whether or not I've known the person my whole life. I know, yeah, it was pretty solid stuff, like the patterns. It all lined up with her. She kept getting seen with the people that died like days later, and she didn't really go out much in the first place.
Don't you think it could be argued that that was a coincidence?
I mean, theoretically, I guess. I don't really believe in anything as a coincidence, though. Also, she literally only talked to me There wasn't any, like, oh, she's such a social butterfly excuse to be made when she was seen with them. I think I said that in court, too. I remember her glaring at me the whole time. I kind of felt bad. But it made me feel super guilty. I thought she needed it, though. I guess not, because,
Moving on. You mentioned her being seen with several of her victims, but were there any other pieces of evidence brought up?
yeah, they did, I think they mentioned something about her DNA being mixed on some of the blood with somebody else's, or something, really. I'm not sure. I think they mentioned that they hadn't noticed previously because of how messy it was. I think that's the girl whose throat was slit. Most of it was just stuff that wasn't obvious, but they hadn't caught doing the original investigations. Like, her taking out the one guy that they never connected that for some reason. I guess the guy on the job was just incompetent as hell. It's whatever. But in theory, they'd get something that obvious easily. Not to wish bad on Kate or anything.
Do you think her defenses during court were any solid against obvious things like that?
Oh, she was really bad in court. I don't know what she was doing, but it really didn't feel like her. It felt like she wanted to be found guilty. I know I was testifying against her, but even I felt like stepping in for her at certain points. I felt guilty, even though I know none of it was my fault. I felt guilty the whole time, though, even after everything, when I heard the news.
I've been meaning to introduce that topic. I've just never quite found the time. The news of her death came in the middle of the proceedings, didn't it? How well do you think it went over?
Well, not very well with me. I've gone into thinking, she'd get sentenced to a long time in prison, but we could still call and see each other and shit. It kind of hit me like a ton of bricks when I heard. All of it was already a really weird break in our routine, and I just didn't expect her to do it. I don't think anybody else involved really cared. I remember Mrs. Sutton being pissed because she didn't get the justice she deserved, but I would have preferred if she got that.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably just because we were friends. Nobody else there really cared about her, as a person. But she was really important to me, even if I was helping sentence her.
Thank you so much for that, Brooke. I would go on, but I feel like that was a really heavy question. Thank you again for joining us today.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for more detail on the proceedings and what all went down during them. She'd murdered a few more people before the court proceedings began, but most of them weren't inconsequential and don't provide much insight on her. Stevenson only started gaining any sort of attention as one singular person near the end of her career, and the accusation from Samantha Sutton solidified the idea. When accused of the murder of Sean Sutton, Stevenson also had her previous 19 kills pushed onto the sentence as well. The proof Samantha had given towards her claim was undeniable, and she was a very seasoned lawyer, had they been reasonable or not. Stevenson had argued that she had alibis for most of the times, but all of them inevitably fell short. It seems that she wasn't very proficient when it came to defending herself in a court of law. She had opted out of a lawyer for some reason. So you'd think she would have a plan. It seems she didn't, because almost all of her arguments were easily disproven. It almost felt like it was purposeful how bad she was at it. considering she was a med student and she seemed very intelligent based on her testing and academic achievements. She had been threatened with multiple life sentences, with as large a kill count as she had, and it seemed she wasn't so accepting of that, because she was found dead in her temporary holding cell on October 10th of 2014. Next episode, we'll go more in depth on her suicide and how it was possible, considering she didn't have that many resources, and it wasn't caused by blunt force, and why she might have done it without the death penalty being held over her head. That's all for today, though. Thank you all for tuning in this afternoon, and remember to have an amazing rest of your day. Remember also to like and subscribe so you don't miss the final episode of the first official season of this podcast. It's almost over, so don't miss a thing.